Hello, this is Harry Reesner, and I'd like to talk about my brother, probably for the last time here. I made a couple of videos about him and about his passing a little while back, and just a quick recap. He died a couple of weeks ago, and in those videos I mentioned that when there's a death, it's important to try and celebrate the life, to think of happy things and happy memories. And one of the problems was that I could not remember any happy things about him. Mosquitoes everywhere here. Now, without getting into all the details, and it would be impossible for me to do so anyway. I mean, I could write a book about it, I think. My brother was mentally ill. He was never diagnosed with any particular thing. I personally believe he was schizophrenic, though I am certainly no expert. He had alcohol abuse problems, which was his number one problem, I would say, or the number one manifestation, I guess, of whatever it was about him. He had temper control problems. He was ultra violent. The last meeting I had with him, we'll call it that, involved a physical altercation in which he assured me with a straight face that the next time we met I wouldn't see him coming and that he would bury me in the garden. That's the way it was for many years with him. He was a menace. I would shy away from using the word bad, however. I don't know really what that means. You know, bad seed, bad egg, all the rest of it. He was mentally ill. He was certainly not a person I wished to spend any time with, and with children, there was no way that I could ever really have any sort of regular contact with him. And when he first died, I struggled to try and find some good memories, and I could not. And the funeral came, and after the funeral, it was a graveside service, and I personally lowered his ashes into the grave, and it was just immediate family. And we milled around a little bit, socializing. Some of the family had come from distances, and we talked. And I looked over and saw my two daughters on the edge of a hill. The graveyard is on a little bit of a slope, and I walked over and spoke to them. And just as I got there, I looked down the hill and saw the groundskeeper's shed. And I now know what the expression, it hit me like a ton of bricks, means. This memory flooded back to me. And that memory is so vivid, despite the fact that it was more than 30 years ago. And it's a story I'd like to tell you tonight. I was about 11 years old. My brother was around 13. And one evening, he and I had a big argument with my father. My father had made some unfair decisions, and we were sent to our bedroom for having disagreed with him, and we plotted what we would do, and we decided that we would run away. We wrote a note, and the next morning we got up early. He and I both had morning paper routes to do. We left the note, we went off to do our paper routes, and we agreed that we would meet afterwards in the graveyard. The graveyard where my brother is buried now. It may seem as though that was an odd place for us to agree to meet, but the arrangement of our hometown was such that the graveyard was sort of a gateway to another world. It was a place you had to pass through in order to get down to the river, where we camped and fished and hiked and goofed around, and where all the kids from our neighborhood did. Anyway, we met. And we thought, what are we going to do with the rest of our lives? We weren't there long before the groundskeeper showed up and asked us if we would work for him that day. It was great. I mean, here we are, two young kids venturing out into the world, and within a couple of hours we had lined up a job. So we cut some grass, we moved around some brush for the guy, but the main project of the day was actually to reset tombstones that vandals had knocked over. He told us that the Presbyterian Church was paying him $10 a stone to reset, and that he would give us $5 for each one that we did. And we toiled endlessly all day. I think we reset 40 or 50 stones. And those things are not light. Well, he was exaggerating our reward. We were expecting our fortune, with which we could maybe move somewhere and reestablish ourselves. We were 11 and 13. But he did give us each $10 at the end of the day. And we ran down the road. There was a gas station where we bought some hot dogs, some buns, and a pack of White Owl cigars. And we came back, and behind the shed there was a little slope down to the railway tracks. And we sat there with a campfire and we ate hot dogs off of sticks and watched the trains go by. And afterwards I remember leaning against the cinder block back wall of the shed, smoking this big White Owl cigar. With my brother right there. And we both thought, this is living. And maybe, just maybe, we'll hop on one of these trains, and who knows? We found a job just like that today. Who knows where we're going to end up? Of course, it got dark. So we went home. And to their credit, I think, my parents didn't say a word. We went to bed and life resumed. Now, it seems a small fragment to hold on to, but the memory is so vivid. And it's not just that that was probably one of the last good days I spent with my brother. It's really more than that. It was one of the best days of my life. And I'll never forget it. Now, I'm going to get a campfire going over there. Got some buns. Got some hot dogs in the fridge inside. And I stopped and grabbed some White Owl cigars. I'm going to celebrate the life. Thanks for listening. I know this was a long haul. But it all sort of reminded me that as much as my feelings were negative about him, he was a human being, struggling with his own issues, as we all do. And despite all the bad things that he did, I think that he deserves to be remembered with dignity, or at the very least with charity. Thanks. Have a good night. Holy shit!